Hey guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another What Sold From Last Week video. In today's video, we are going to be going over all of my sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. We're also going to pull some individual items and talk about why they are selling, why we picked them up in the first place, and how much they sold for. Let's dive right in. I'm going over sales that happened between October 27th through November 2nd. In total, I sold 246 items, was a pretty decent week for us. Gross item sales, meaning, not including anything we received for shipping, just the items themselves, was $8,692. My average sale price was actually really great. Probably the highest in total average item sale price I've seen in a while was $35.33. On eBay, I sold 174 items. On Poshmark, I sold only 72. And so I think that's the reason why my average sale price is much higher, because I don't have as many Poshmark items clearancing out as I normally do. I attribute this to the reaction to Poshmark changing their fees back. I noticed a significant drop in sales when they changed it back. This particular week we're looking at, I think, was a result of that. Plus, we got behind on cross-posting and we weren't cross-posting as much. I really love not putting all my eggs in one basket, because even though this was an absolutely terrible week for Poshmark, my eBay sales did capture the sales and pick up the slack. Like I said, I sold 174 items on eBay. My average item sale price on eBay was $40. That was amazing. So really happy with these numbers. Sometimes I consider chopping Poshmark off and trying out a different platform, but we've kind of been slacking over there lately. The combination of the platform fees, I can't really complain about Poshmark sales when I'm not doing everything that I can. I think that's a good lesson for everyone to consider when you're experiencing slow sales. A lot of the times we want to blame other things, but we should self-reflect and ask ourselves if maybe there's something we're doing to contribute to that as well. And there definitely was this week. All right, we're going to dive into some sales as promised. I won't be doing this every video, but I pulled some of my normal higher price bolo items that I think you guys should look for. I also pulled some mistakes, which I have sprinkled into multiple videos, but I've sprinkled some in today, and we're going to talk about them. There's a lot of sales you guys are going to see as follow-ups to things that were in thrift hauls. I know some of you were interested in a follow-up to some of the items I picked up that you thought wouldn't sell, and they've sold really quickly, so I wanted to follow up with that. This was not one you guys did not think was going to sell. This is one that Joe found in a recent thrift haul. It is Todd Snyder. This is one of the best men's brands to look for right now. It is a designer brand, and honestly, I haven't really found much in this brand that doesn't perform well. Even their collaborations, which I'll have an example for you guys here later on in the video, still perform well. I mean, this brand has a following. If you can get their actual label, the better. This was a really cool men's knit style button-up polo shirt. Just a note here that styles like this I've been noticing a lot that popular companies are putting out. You guys might have also noticed in that video that Joe picked up a couple of newer label Abercrombie & Fitch knit shirts that look like this. I'm just saying, I've been noticing it's a trend. A lot of guys are wearing stuff like this right now. So if you see a style like this in pretty much any brand, I would at least look it up. Like I said, this had a lot going for it. Great brand, great popular style right now. When I actually looked up men's Todd Snyder button-up shirts like this, or when I did a Google Lens, there was a big range of comps, and depending on the print that you had could be the difference of like adding $50 to it. So as I said in that video, I wanted to take more time to figure out the exact print, and it turns out we did have one that was going to sell for more than some of the other ones, listed at $126. It did sell for our full asking price. This only took 4 days to sell, and we paid $4.49. Next up, this is a brand you guys definitely want to be on the lookout for. It is brand new to me. I think this style jacket's actually sold at Free People right now. This is called Classic Rock Couture. All of the jackets have this similar vibe to them. Different colorways, of course, possibly even different shapes, but this is what you are going to want to look for. I could see this style walking right past it and thinking it's A New Day or, another similar Target brand, because they put out stuff that kind of looks like this, but you want to be aware of this label. So here's the Classic Rock Couture label, over 100% sell-through rate. You are semi-likely to come across it, especially since they're selling it at Free People now. So definitely keep your eye out for this. Does that not look like something Target would put out? I've seen a ton of jackets that look like this. So if I wouldn't have known about this label, I definitely would have passed on it. This we listed for $125. I ended up selling it on an offer for $106. So really awesome pickup. Next up, I thought it was a great sale, but just one I wanted to show you guys. This I listed back in March 24th of 2024. So it has been several months now, but I paid up for this item. I paid almost $40 for it, which is a lot. And I don't normally pay up for items unless I know they're going to flip super quickly. I thought that this would. Obviously, that was not the case. I think we maybe priced it slightly too high in the beginning, but it did take several months to sell, which means my $40 was tied up for a long time and I couldn't reinvest that money back. So this was a lesson to me to be a little bit more competitive on pricing if I am going to pay up for an item, just to make sure I get my initial investment back quickly. Because, $40 is $40, but if you continue doing that every single time, you're going to tie up a lot of money over the course of a month. So these are a pair of Carhartt bibs. Definitely something I would look out for in just men's bibs in general, but Carhartt is probably one of the more trendy brands. I took a risk on these because they were fire resistant. They were also new with tags, so that's why I paid up for them. Listed these for $125. What ended up happening was sitting on it for several months and then them selling on an offer to watcher for $106. So 40 into $106. I basically doubled my money after fees. Not a bad flip, but again, I just don't want to tie up money for that many months. So that was a lesson learned from my end. Next up, very blurry photo here, but this is the brand Naked Cashmere. I've mentioned it before, but they're pretty much cashmere in general, in most cases, is great to pick up. It really heavily adds value right now, but there are certain brands that people are searching for that go for crazy amounts of money. This would definitely be one of those brands, Naked Cashmere. This is a pretty plain, oversized black sweater. Listed this for $100. It flipped very quickly for my full asking price of $100. So this is an example where we did pay up for an item. We paid $20 through wholesale and listed it for $100, expecting a quick flip, and a quick flip it was. It sold within just a couple of weeks, and those metrics are what I like to see when we are paying up for items. Okay, next up, this brand has become trendy this year, especially for fall and winter with their leather goods. So if you come across Fry, it is very popular again, depending on the style you have. These were a pair of men's leather suede boots. I listed these for $100 and it sold on an offer to watcher for $85. These took a couple of months to sell. Oh, this was such a cool sweater. Okay, I don't remember if this is a good brand or not in terms of vintage Sugar Streets. However, regardless, if you found a sweater like this, I would get it. All over prints. See how it's front and back are going to add significant value to pretty much any item you have, particularly when it is cat print. I've mentioned for years now the crazy cat lady stuff sells so well. This was a really cool sweater. Listed this one for $100 and it sold very quickly for an offer to watcher for $85. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. Next up, I haven't really talked about jeans brands in a while, either men's or women's, and that's mostly because you can't rely on it as a category for a high sell-through rate model, in my opinion, where I live anymore, because my thrift stores are charging $10 per jeans. Last time I mentioned that, I know a lot of you were like, well, they're charging 20 or 30 in my area. I totally get that, but for me, for a while, they were only charging like $6, then it went to $7. It was a category I could shop in because my cost of goods were reasonable. Now they're unreasonable, and I've had to just kind of look at that category differently for my business. I know it's different for everybody, but I've had to pretty much X out jeans for the most part out of my sourcing, just because A, cost of goods are higher than I'm used to, and B, like there's not a lot of brands that you can consistently rely on, especially in the women's department, but even the men's now, it's very specific on style, size, and you got to be careful. So that's where I'm at with jeans. Rock Revival is still one in the men's department I am going to look up. This one was the Dobson straight in a size 30. If you're not familiar with Rock Revival, you can pretty much identify them with their thick stitching and their back pockets. These ones we listed for $80. They did end up selling for our full asking price. However, they did take several months to sell. Overall, pretty good flip, and Rock Revival is one in the men's department, at least I'm still looking at. Next up, this is a style-based vintage piece. I would not memorize this brand. However, you can clearly see it is an older label. This had some really great whimsy goth, fairy grunge vibes. Definitely something people are looking for right now. Here's a better photo of what the fabric looks like. These very dark contrasting florals are performing extremely well. One tip I'll give you guys is I do come across dark floral grungy looks a lot. However, I always ask myself, does it look too mature? Does this look like something a young person would wear? Because the people wearing these aesthetics are typically young. They are teens to early adults. So let's keep that in mind. It's not true for everything. If I came across a Catherine's top with this print, I wouldn't immediately get it and think whimsy goth, because someone buying Catherine's probably isn't looking for a whimsy goth aesthetic. And if I did get it, I just wouldn't market it that way. I don't go around picking up every dress that has this print. I always ask, would somebody actually wear this? I definitely think somebody would. This is the epitome of what people are looking for. It even has a corset detail in the back. I listed this for $75. It did sell for our full asking price, and it sold a day after getting it listed. Next up, this is a follow-up to one from a thrift haul. I know a lot of you were concerned that this wasn't going to sell. I think I had a really hard time conveying just how long this coat was, because I experienced the same thing when I did comps, where I saw this exact jacket, but it was longer length, but it wasn't this long. It probably cut off here, and it was not going for as much, but I could not find one with this extremely long length. So I took a risk on it. I paid $25 for it, listed this one for $80, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $65. So 25 into 65, and it sold within just 4 days of getting it listed. Columbia is a brand I pretty much never pick up anymore unless it's like a down puffer coat or something. But like I said, this one gave me all the vibes that I needed to get it just because of how long length it was. So we made an exception, and I did want to follow up on that because it did pay off. This is another style-based one. This is the brand Komarov. This brand actually does make styles of dresses that are ones you probably want to be on the lookout for. They are well known for this crinkle texture. This one is a gorgeous long length midi dress, and it fits the fairy aesthetic, mostly because it's like a light colored ethereal looking, but also these dainty details are really what drove me to pick this item up. We listed this one for $75. Again, $75 to maybe like $125 is my range for dresses that are fitting, almost all of the factors in a bolo aesthetic. So I listed this one for $75. It did sell for our full asking price, and it actually only took 5 days to sell. If you guys want to learn more about style-based sourcing, I've learned a lot myself and grown this past year, but between myself and Trash Pandas, you guys probably have watched their YouTube channel by now, both of us coach and run a mentorship group, and one of the things that we do focus on is getting everybody up to date with style-based sourcing. You can get items like this and sell them for $75 in just about any brand. If you're interested in joining, the link is in the description box. Okay, next up, I would call this a style-based flip, but also a great brand, Ralph Lauren. The old money aesthetic, or preppy, equestrian. I could even see Western or country with this. Lots of styles I could see going in this piece. But if you guys are familiar with those aesthetics I just mentioned, Ralph Lauren vintage pieces especially now apply to a lot of those aesthetics. Items like this were sitting before. Now people are looking for them, so you got to know the right keywords to use. We must have put them in our description instead of our title, but they did sell. This one is a white linen jacket with a leather trim. This probably would have sold faster if we would have put those keywords in our title. A lot of you guys have been asking me when I've been making corrections during these videos, why didn't I do that in the first place? The answer is because I have people listing for me. It is not very often that I am listing an item, but I am coaching my employees to prioritize certain aesthetic keywords. This one did take several months to sell. I listed this for $65. It sold on an offer for $55. But again, maybe take a look at all the Ralph Lauren or Ralph Lauren pieces you guys have, especially in the women's department, and ask yourself if you could add the keywords old money, equestrian possibly, country is actually a really popular keyword right now, and then potentially Western. So those would all be great keywords if they apply to your listing to just kind of spruce them up. All right, next up, this is a really cool dress. I've mentioned so many times over the last year, but people want things that stand out, that are unique, that are rare, that not many people have, and that's why vintage is exploding right now. This is the brand Murray. I'm not familiar with that brand, but I would pick up pretty much any vintage dress that looked like this. Very psychedelic, artsy kind of geometric print, very unique and out there. Plus it is long length and it is a full button dress, which in my opinion increases the value significantly. We listed this one for $60. It did take several months to sell. When you're dealing with vintage and style-based stuff, oftentimes I would expect it to sit a little bit longer. As you guys see, sometimes I do have really quick flips with style-based stuff. Sometimes I do sit on it for several months. So this is an example of that, sold for full asking price. Really cool piece. Next up, this is a bolo brand that you want to know about. It is Outerknown, especially for men's. This is a great bolo brand right now, really high sell-through rate, and depending on what you have, can go for a lot. This was a men's shacket. I listed this one for $60. It sold on an offer to watcher for $51, and it only took 2 days to sell. This is another bolo brand in the men's department. Keep your eye out for it. Robert Graham. They are known for their flip cuff stuff, so they'll typically have a pretty plain print, but then if you flip the cuff, it has a contrast detail. This one was more unique, which is why we got it. It is a wine bar print. We listed this for $55. It sold for our full asking price, and it actually sold the exact same day that we got it listed. So there are some Robert Graham prints, and larger sizes go for over $100 pre-owned. So you just want to make sure to always look up whatever print you have. All right, next up, I mentioned Todd Snyder before. This is that example I told you about where Todd Snyder has quite a few collaborations. One of their most common ones is Champion in collaboration with Todd Snyder. I would definitely keep your eye out for it because they do look pretty plain. You know, if you didn't look on the inside, you would be passing on it. The outside patch on the back just says Champion, right? So how do you know that it's Todd Snyder? Any Champion piece I see, I'm looking on the inside and seeing if it's collaborated with Todd Snyder. But yeah, obviously Champion's not a brand that you want to get, but this collaboration goes for more money and has a good following. Listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price. This actually only took 4 days to sell. Here is another great brand to be on the lookout for, similarly to Champion collaborations that you would just pass right by at the thrift store because they make very plain, worn in looking pieces, but as you can see, they do go for more money. The brand is Young Maven, and they make a lot of their stuff out of hemp and organic cotton. This is a men's t-shirt. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38, and this took a couple of months to sell. The men's stuff in this brand definitely performs better than the women's, but I still like getting the women's as well. If you came across this, you might think because it looks worn in that it has a lot of wash wear, but that's actually how they make their stuff. So you do have to be aware of that so you're not passing by it at a thrift store. All right, next up, this is another brand a lot of people still don't know about. This is Planet. Trying to get the tag to load for you here. Planet by Lauren G. There are a lot of brands. Let me see if I can just zoom in for you. There are a lot of brands that have the word Planet in it. This is an older label by them, but it's just Planet. That's it. It looks like this. A way you can usually tell is because their stuff is a one size fits all. So if you're coming across Planet, make sure it's a one size fits all to make sure you actually have Planet by Lauren G. And oftentimes it's not going to say Lauren G, so it's just something you have to know. It is a very plain looking brand. Their stuff retails for a lot and people love them. I have some really great luck with this brand. This is a denim top. I listed it for $45 and it sold for our full asking price. This actually sold the exact same day we listed it. Next up, this is a brand I hardly ever get, but in fall and winter, it performs extremely well for me. It is Vince, and I like getting them in fall and winter in their sweaters with great materials. This is a wool cashmere blend sweater. I can usually get $40 to $50 for them. They also make men's too, so keep your eye out for that. You can look up their style name to see if it's men's or women's. I listed this for $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38. This one did take a couple of months to sell. Next up, this was a pretty quick flip for the style. This is the brand Ash Creek. Suede and leather bomber jackets have been trending, and I thought this was a really cool piece with the black leather details. Very Western vibes. It's a vintage one. It's real leather. It's bomber style. I had to get it. I listed this for $45. It did end up selling for our full asking price. It did take a couple of months to sell. Here is an example of something that did not pay off for me. I listed this December 28th, 2023, so it's been almost a year now. This is Apartment 9. I pick up anything cashmere during this time of the year, and it can usually sell for $25. Here's the deal with this one. I've noticed Apartment 9 has become really oversaturated, so I am starting to slow down on even cashmere in Apartment 9. I originally got this a year ago. It was men's, a larger size. It also has an argyle print and it's cashmere. I thought this would sell for more because of all of those factors. So we originally listed it slightly higher. It also had several flaws, and I don't think when we noticed that we dropped the price either. So lots of mistakes here. Even with all of those and dropping the price each month after 90 days for a year, it ended up being listed at about $25 or best offer. Someone sent an offer for $22, which I accepted. So we definitely still made money on it. I don't want to tie up that money for that long. So this was a mistake that we definitely made. This one was not a mistake. This was another gut instinct pickup. I got this at the bins. This is a brand Chelsea and Theodore, not a brand I hardly ever get, but I forget which brand it was, but this dress just really reminded me of a higher end brand's dress. I can't remember what dress it was at the time, but I was like, I wonder if I should get this because it literally looks like a dupe. I really went back and forth because it wasn't a long length. It was a knee length, but it did have oversized look to it. Like I said, at the time, I can't remember what it reminded me of, another brand that does really well in dresses. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and test this out. I'm at the bins. Very happy. I listed it for $35. It sold for our full asking price in just a few weeks. We used the keywords cottagecore, peasant, and tiered. And it's even a short dress with sleeveless. So crazy to sell in colder weather like this, but again, just that gut instinct. I wanted to show you this sale because if you know that something is really trendy, things that also look like that can potentially flip, not for as much money as the real thing, but taking key features or key looks out of something that's trending and applying it to a lesser known brand can help to make some really great bread and butter flips. Next up, this is a Y2K piece. I've mentioned before, obviously you've seen it in the what sold videos, but we're doing crazy well with Y2K tops. Now we're moving into colder weather and I am testing out some Y2K sweaters in similar aesthetics. So this one has that baby doll style here. It's a deep V-neck, it's pink, extra small. Similarly to how I said I don't try to pick up mature things because it's younger people buying it. That's also true for Y2K stuff. Smaller sizes typically sell well because they are teen to young adult. So an extra small doesn't scare me in this aesthetic. So I went ahead and picked this one up. I listed it for $35, which is about where I would list a top in the exact same silhouette. And to my surprise, it actually did sell very quickly. It sold the exact same day that we got it listed for our full asking price. So now I'm trying to apply these to sweaters, and I'll let you know how that goes. This was a good example of a quick flip. Here is another one. This one I also got at the bins. I wanted to show you how quick of a flip this was. I showed this in a thrift haul with a flaw. This is an Express Y2K style, extra small, kind of whimsy goth baby doll top, very grunge. So here's the baby doll style. Sheerness is definitely something people are looking for. Had some lacy details, some cool little cap sleeves, and meshy stuff is doing well. This one was a deep V button Henley. The flaw was that it was missing a button right here. I went ahead and just decided to list it, and I dropped my price to $20. To my surprise, it's sold for our full asking price within just a couple of weeks. So you guys, keep your eye out for stuff like this. It does take a minute to really focus on exactly what to pick up in these style aesthetics. But if you focus on having all of the factors there, all of the great things people are looking for in the goth, fairy grunge, whimsy goth, and all the factors apply, that's when a great sale can be made. So I am very picky, but I thought this was an excellent sale. Here is another kind of mistake sale. So this is Lauren Ralph Lauren in a size 2X. I've mentioned to you guys before, but plus size Lauren Ralph Lauren tops are a huge bolo. They perform extremely well for me, and they do have a great following. This one I definitely thought would go for more because it had more details to it. It was plaid, long sleeve. It had this ruffle detail in the front. It's been sitting for a year, and we have dropped the price. It ended up at about $22 or best offer. It sold on an offer for $19. This took a year to sell. Some things, even if the comps are there, even if you have great experience with things, sometimes things just sit for whatever reason. You drop and drop and drop the price, and eventually you have to cut your losses. I still made money with this one, thank goodness, and we're creating a better sale plan for the future to move older items, but this was not my best sale, and I've had that $5.50 tied up all year, and that does add up when it happens all the time. One thing I think we could have done to get this to sell quicker is to not have it buttoned up, to have this a little bit more open so it looks more wearable. It's probably this really crazy ruffle front that people are not interested in without having an open front. So I think if we would have just pictured it a little differently, it would have sold quicker. All right, here are some plus size bread and butter. I always like to show you guys, this is a Catherine's 5X. You'll notice with almost all these pieces that they are more substantial. They have lots of things going for them. So this one's a larger size. It's a full button up, and plus size is probably the most substantial factor that increases value and sell-through rate for me is a full button. You can also see it's got some really nice dark florals, perfect for this time of the year. Listed this one for $25. It sold for our full asking price, and it sold the exact same day that we listed it. Here's another one. This is Rose and Olive. This one was missing its size tag, but I knew it was a plus size. We estimated it to be a 2X. This brand Rose and Olive is one of my best sellers in plus sizes. I listed this one for $25. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $21. This one only took a week to sell. This one was actually surprising to me. This is not typically something I would get. I think this came from wholesale. We're being a little bit more picky on Torrid these days. This is a pretty plain cardigan. As I've mentioned before, plus size cardigans do not sell as well for me as the tops. This was a green longer length Torrid cardigan. I think the reason that we got it was because green is a very trendy color right now. Listed this for $25. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $21. It surprisingly only took 3 weeks to sell for as plain as the item is. I think it's the fact that it's longer length and it is a nice shade of green. Here's a little bit more of a plain piece. This is Quacker Factory, size 2X. This brand performs very well for me in plus sizes. I normally wouldn't get a short sleeve t-shirt like this. However, it was very on trend for the season. You can see very Thanksgiving themed with the turkey embellishments on it. Listed this one for $25. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $21, and it actually sold the exact same day that we got it listed. Here's another Y2K flip. This is the brand The Limited. This can be a great brand to look for in Y2K stuff. Again, you want to make sure all of the factors are there. So this one is not a baby doll top. It had a lot of lace trim, top and bottom, and details along the front. For that reason, I grabbed this one. We listed this for $25. It sold for our full asking price in just 3 weeks. Moving on to some of the Poshmark stuff. This is a brand that does not have a 100% sell-through rate, but I do like getting it. It is, I don't know how you pronounce it, Jerf Avenue, DJERF Avenue. This brand does perform pretty well. I would say about a 50 to 70% sell-through rate, but it is a very pricey brand. They make a lot of capsule wardrobe pieces. This one is just a plain short sleeve top. We listed this and it ended up selling on an offer for $34 for a pretty plain black t-shirt. A lot of people right now are looking for capsule effortless pieces, and in these higher end brands that use quality fabrics, you can get $35 for a t-shirt. So you want to be aware to look for these things at the thrift store. Next up, this is another category that's performing very well for me. They are base layers in both pants and tops. This one is a newer brand to me. It's called 66 North Icelandic. These are a pair of women's merino wool base layer pants. Listed them for about $60 and they sold on an offer to Watcher for $50. If I see any kind of merino wool base layer like this, I am looking it up regardless of brand. Here's another, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but when I showed these in the thrift haul, I thought that they were a vintage Y2K item. And Steve Madden Y2K or vintage chunky shoes, specifically boots, can go for crazy amounts of money. I'm talking like $100 to $200. However, this one did have a style name inside called Eber. That's what's in our title here. And it turns out it was a lot more modern than I originally thought it was. So for that, I listed it for closer to about $60 and accepted an offer of $50, which is still amazing, right, for a pair of pre-owned shoes. But Steve Madden is a brand you want to look for in platform chunky heels. Make sure to include, all of that in your title. But even modern stuff can perform well, but the vintage stuff you definitely want to look for. All right, next up we have a Lauren Ralph Lauren top. This is an excellent sell that sold very quickly. This is a Lauren Ralph Lauren size 1X top. Very substantial piece in Lauren Ralph Lauren. You can see tons of multicolored details, long sleeve, longer length. Whenever I have a piece in Lauren Ralph Lauren like this, I drive the price up because, as I mentioned, very good following in plus size Lauren Ralph Lauren pieces. Plus, they're just like a higher quality brand. So if you have a substantial piece, I can sometimes get $40 to $50 for them. This one ended up selling on an offer to Watcher for $39. Next up, this is a newer brand to me at least, and these go pre-owned in the pants for $25 to $35. They are Wowie pants. Here is their logo. These ones sold on the lower end for $25. They did have a couple of flaws. This is another example of something that did not pan out that I thought would in a very lower price sale. These Hot Topic men's goth pants sold for just $13. We had to have listed these like over a year ago and dropped prices every single month to even get to $13. So it has been sitting for a while. I like cutting my losses and moving on, even if I think, man, these really should have sold. When I originally got these, they were a style-based pickup. Hot Topic obviously isn't a brand that retails for a lot, but the goth pants were performing really well in the Y2K aesthetic. These had the buckle details, they had cargo pants, they were men's. So for all those reasons, I thought that these were going to flip very quickly and for good money. You can see we also included a bunch of good keywords, and it still ended up selling for $13. Sometimes there is no explanation, sometimes there are explanations, but again, if I've been sitting on something for this long, I just want to see it move, especially on Poshmark where I clearance out a lot of stuff. You guys, if you go check the sold, you're going to see a lot of stuff. $10, $12, $15, $20 flips where we just want to get stuff moving that we've sat on for a while. And like I mentioned recently, I have just over the last couple months started putting together a churning plan for myself and following it and starting to find a way to move items to where we're not going to sit on them for longer than a year. My goal is that they would actually be reworked at the 6-month mark. So I'm not quite to that yet, but we are starting to work on it and get caught up to that point so sales like this do not happen. The next pieces are ones that took forever to sell and then sold for substantially less than I hoped that they would, and I should have probably never picked them up in the first place. They are both designer, high retailing brands. This one is the brand Millie. Great retailing brand. However, on the resale market, not a great sell-through rate. So I wish we would have never picked it up. I don't know what we originally listed this for, but we have since dropped the price to $38, which it did sell at. I obviously made money on this, but I have been sitting on this item for a while. It just does not fit my business model to sit on items this long, which means knowing the sell-through rate of this brand, I should have never picked this up. This brand, APC, another very high retailing brand. This is actually their older label. I originally listed this close to $100 and it has since dropped and dropped. We accepted an offer of $43. You can go crazy because you're like, this is such a high retailing brand that everybody's talking about. But if it doesn't fit your business model, then you shouldn't pick it up. This did not fit my business model because it did not sell quickly. And that is my ultimate goal so that I'm not tying money up and I can quickly reinvest. So this sold for $43. I definitely made money on this. I've been sitting on this for a long time. This is a brand that I don't normally pick up that flipped quickly for us. It is Velvet by Graham & Spencer. Pretty much any brand right now, if you can find it in a dressier, longer length pea coat situation like this one was, a wool coat, not saying pick up everything, but generally you're going to see a higher ASP and sell-through rate. So I am looking at just some key pieces and brands I wouldn't normally get, like Velvet by Graham & Spencer. This one actually had a very specific style name called the Colette coat, and it sold for $59, which was an amazing pre-owned price for Velvet by Graham & Spencer. This was another one that sold for substantially less than I thought it would. Similarly to APC, Lafayette 148 is a higher retailing brand. However, sell-through rate has dropped, and I knew that at the time of picking this up. I told myself if I'm going to get it, it needs to be substantial. At the time, I was selling sets like this for over $100. I was very successful with it, but the market quickly changed. This one, for whatever reason, has sat and sat, and we ended up selling it for $35. Definitely a failed sale on my part. We didn't lose money. However, that money was tied up for that long, and this was sitting in storage. It is not fitting into my business model. This is a bolo. This is SheFit. Now, this brand does make a lot of different like comfort style bras now, and those ones do not sell well. However, their adjustable sports bras do still sell well. So this is a SheFit sports bra. Here's a little crown logo, and it also usually has a spell on the back. This one sold pre-owned for $30, which is amazing for a bra. Next up, this is the brand Ibex. This is another base layer situation. This is their logo and label. Ibex is an excellent brand to look for in wool pieces. This one, like I said, merino wool base layer. This one's actually a cycling pair of cropped pants. It sold for $39, so don't discount those base layers. This is a pretty interesting sale because this one actually would have sold for a very low price on my Poshmark. Let me show you the brand. This is Mary McFadden. It does not have a 100% sell-through rate, but it is a designer brand and some of their pieces can go for a lot. This one I ended up getting an offer on, like the price had been dropped so much. I think we originally listed it for $125. I think the price ended up being like, I don't even know, like close to $25 or something like that. Someone was sending me a crazy offer, like 15 or 20, and I was like, wait a minute, this should not, like I should not be receiving an offer for this little, and this should not be at this price. But again, because we have just recently started looking back at our older listings to rework them, I hadn't gotten to this one yet. That indicated to me this definitely should sell for more. So I ended the listing on all platforms, reworked it, and applied some aesthetic keywords that are now trending that weren't back when I picked this up. So we added whimsy goth, menswear. Instead of selling that for the, 15 or 20, whatever the crazy offer was, I ended it, relisted it, and it sold immediately for $75. So keywords are extremely important. Knowing your aesthetics are extremely important, and knowing which ones are worth reworking and which ones aren't is extremely important. I thought that was an interesting sale that I would share with you guys, but I am obviously much happier with a $75 sale. Next up, just following up on this, because this was shown in a video, this is a Beyond Yoga tank top that I took a risk on. So I don't normally get Beyond Yoga anymore, but this felt like a newer piece. It felt like it had never been worn. It was a size extra large. And I listed this for $25, accepted an offer of $20. And it was actually a super quick flip despite some comps. Next up, I am being extremely picky with Free People. I try to stick to the more substantial pieces. There are some key pieces in Free People. They tend to be more substantial like this that sell for close to $100 like this one did. This is called the Calico Plaid Shirt Jacket. I would pretty much say any jacket in Free People, I would be looking up this specific style, or you can do a Google Lens. This one ended up selling very quickly for $75. You can see it's very on trend, super grungy, orange and black, close to Halloween. I knew that was going to be a quick flip, but if you've given up on Free People, don't give up on the more substantial pieces like jackets. I've pretty much given up on North Face unless it's a puffer or a raincoat, especially in the women's department. However, this one had some factor stacking details and I took a risk on this and it paid off. This is a women's size extra large, quilted, and it's a longer length. I've been talking about this a lot in my videos, but coats that are longer length have significantly more value. So this one I listed around $40. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $34 and it actually sold extremely quickly. Don't discount everything in a brand, just know what factors to look for. This is Grace and Karma. They are not a brand I seek out, but they've been popping up a lot in my thrift stores. I've tested out a couple of their pieces. Pretty much every piece I come across from them is like a thick knit material, plus it's very on trend. This one was a exaggerated bishop sleeve with a bobble knit. That's what these raised little nubs are. It was a super pretty fall color. So with all those factors combined, I said, you know what? The last Grace and Karma I picked up flipped really quickly. I'm going to test this out again. I'm going to drive the price up. It ended up selling for $29. I think I've had it priced at $35. This brand continues to have trendy style-based pickups, and I'm going to continue testing them out. So far, so good as far as adding them to brands I'm looking for. This is a Y2K vintage piece. Abercrombie & Fitch is probably one of my best-selling vintage brands. This is also a style I would look for in pretty much any Y2K or vintage piece. This is Abercrombie & Fitch. These are a pair of cargo paratrooper pants. These were selling for like $60, $75. I think a lot more have come on the market now, so mine ended up sitting for a little bit. They still ended up selling for $43, which was great in a vintage label, and just about any brand I would be at least looking up. Next up, I've mentioned this brand before. This is one I go against comps on. It always sells for like $30 to $40 for me. It is Barefoot Dreams. This is their cozy chic light one, size large, extra large. I think I got this one at the bins. It did sell also very quickly for $34. They have a very specific feel to their knit, very fluffy, cozy. I really like picking up Barefoot Dreams. I think it's a great brand to pick up for fall and winter. This has been an experiment we've been running on picking up plus size Old Navy stuff, and surprisingly, we've sold a ton of these lightweight quilted jackets, not for much. You know, we only sold this one for 25, but I am surprised. We've been selling a lot of plus size Old Navy jackets, so maybe consider testing them out in your store. I would probably not get them at full price. I would get them at the bins. Depending on the piece, the weight of the jacket could drive the price up. Even though this is a larger piece, it's a lightweight material. We've been picking them up at low prices, and they've been flipping for 25. A reminder of this brand in case you're not familiar with it is Free Fly. These little 3 waves are their logo. They make stuff out of bamboo. They have a really great sell-through rate. I can usually sell them at least 20 bucks and up. This is a men's bamboo hoodie. It sold for $34. Next up, this is another mistake. This is another one where I noticed we were receiving low offers for this, and I was like, man, I really need to get that reworked because these can sell for like at least 50, if not sometimes over $100. And my Posherva sent out automatic offers to watchers before I got to rework the item, and someone bought it at $12. That's how long these have been sitting. That's how much of a price drop we have had these at. If you guys didn't know, 5A7 is a line from Syncdacept, which is a very popular brand and does sell for a lot of money. However, as you can see, we failed to put Syncdacept in our title or anywhere in our listing, and that is why they did not sell. They did not make it to the right buyer. So these ended up selling for $12 instead of much more. But again, lesson learned. We make mistakes all the time, not just my listers, but myself when I'm picking items up. So again, you guys have asked to see some of these mistakes. I am showing them to you. We are by no means perfect, and we are always learning. Lastly, finishing with a plus size bread and butter sale. This is Torrid. Super picky with this brand. Don't normally pick up size 1X, and I also don't normally pick up tank tops. However, this one I took a risk on because it was very on trend. It was faux leather. It fit into a lot of the aesthetics that we're looking at right now, the gothy style stuff. I have this listed at 25. It sold on an offer very quickly, surprisingly, for $20. All right, guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you are not already and you would like to be, consider subscribing down below. Make sure to hit the notification bell and hit all. That way you'll be notified every single time I post new content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.